It's showtime, folks. Welcome in. Chase and Big Joe, 1025, 1063 The Game here on this Thursday. Hope you're having a great start to your day. He's Big Joe. I'm Chase McCabe. Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier on the ones and twos. Say that 3 times fast. We're live at the Omni Nashville Hotel at Bar Lines today. What's up, JoJo?
Oh, man, the weekend's here. Big game. Friday night, 3 more on Saturday. And then I cannot remember the last time, Chase McCabe, I was in my car and I heard a press conference and I actually pulled into a parking lot because I was unsure what I was hearing yesterday from Brian Callahan was real. And I found it was real. And holy cow.
Oh, it was real, all right. And I guess that is the way we were going to start today. I mean, there's only one way to start. If you missed it, I'm shocked you missed it. But here was Brian Callahan when asked if his team's soft.
There are a lot of folks who think this team is soft physically and mentally. How would you respond to that idea?
I mean, you really want to get me going today? Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think it's complete and total bull, if you want my honest opinion. These guys are tough, man. They go after it every day. They play hard as hell. And there's at no point have we ever put on tape at any point this season that this is a soft football team. Like I can't even wrap my mind around how that would even be a conversation. I mean, just because we don't win games doesn't mean we're soft. These guys play their ass off. They play hard. They play physical. You can ask any team that plays against us that when they come off the field, they know they played us. Yeah, that makes me relatively angry that would be some presumption. That means you just don't watch the you don't do anything about it, that you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're looking at. So I'm not going to stand for anybody calling his football team soft. I think that's so. If there's opinions out there that feel that way, then they don't know anything about NFL football. So I'd like you to walk in there and call one of these guys soft and see what happens. This is not a soft football team at all, mentally or physically. And I think one of the things mentally that's really been impressive about the team is that the way that they keep fighting through the way that this season has gone. They've not shown at any point that they're not up to the task. They come out every day and work. I'm really you're gonna really get me going now. I mean, these guys come out here and they do everything possible to win games. And if there's any assumption anywhere that's outside of this building, again, we don't focus on all those things, but there's no possible explanation to say that this team is soft any way, shape, or form, mentally or physically. And the way that they go about their work it's insulting to me, to them, to everyone that works here. So I'm not that no chance ever in hell would I ever admit that to be the case, and neither would anybody in this locker room. So you can kind of shove that one right up your to be honest. So
I like that parting shot. That was good.
Right.
I mean, look, here's what, and I have been since that aired. And what was funny is I was in a couple of meetings, while this was all going on. Jared walks into the station and goes, "You just missed a humdinger of a press conference." And I was starting to see stuff on Twitter. And I'm like, man, did he go off?
Wow.
And then I heard it, and I was like, my initial reaction was, well, good for you, Brian Callahan. I mean, yeah, look, you're the head coach. If somebody asks the question, and there's this thought out there that the football team's soft, like, what else are you going to say as a head coach? I appreciate the passion, the emotion. You're defending your football team. I think he said everything that needed to be said there. But then it raises the question because of that reaction, because of, because at the same time, if something isn't a little bit true, don't you kind of go, yeah, I'm not even going to touch that.
So my first reaction was, that's a man who's done. That was my reaction. And we want to hear from you guys, 615-737-1025. What was your initial reaction? And do you think that's a man who's done?
Like, define done.
Like,
done
he knows
like
he's not coming back.
He
knows he's not coming back. He knows the season is a wash, and there's a good chance he's not coming back. From the inflection I took yesterday, because I'm telling you, we're all the same. We all put the pants on the same, all that other stuff,
sure.
Yada, yada, yada. And I've been around people who know they've been fired and know they're not coming back. That is their same reaction. The same. Now, I'm going to be floored if he's back in January. That's the same reaction that I've seen people do when they quit their jobs. It's like Michael Douglas and falling down. He knows he's done, and it's not coming back. Am I the only one who thinks this way? I'd love to hear from you guys. Call or text, because since 1997, I have covered that team as a cameraman, as a reporter, as a writer. It doesn't matter. I'm like, look at me. I have never seen a Titans person break. Whisenhunt came close.
Yeah.
In the summer of 2015. He came close during camp because they were 2-14. They were terrible and all that. He came close one time. I've never seen that. So is that desperation? I don't know.
Vrabel had the one last year. I think it was with Gentry, where he was talking about losing and like how it sucks.
Yeah.
And there was to that extent,
right?
I can't remember that.
No.
I mean that's up there with a playoffs, or you play to win the game, or they are who we thought they were.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's one of those kind of rants. And my thing is, I don't think this football team is soft. I think there are times where they have some tendencies that come off that way. Like, I go back to training camp.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Simmons letting something a reporter tweeted get to him. It's like, all right. And look, be pissed off. That's fine. I'm the king of pot shots. Take a little pot shot in the press conference. That's
right.
fine.
Yeah.
Like, do that. I got no issue there. But to take it to the level that he took it, that was a little like, okay, you're letting something kind of silly bother you.
Absolutely.
And, that's a tendency.
It is. And look,
we talked about that. Now, I think Jeffrey Simmons is a physical player. I think there are a lot of physical players on this team that do stuff that I could never do in a million years. So I'm not going to sit here and say that the football team overall is soft. I just think at the end of the day, they're not good. They're just not a good team.
I'm with you on that.
I'm sure they don't like hearing that either, but that's the truth. This is not a good football team. As for your point on Brian Callahan, like having that feeling that he's done, I maybe, and honestly, I kind of think that that's a good thing, because I've needed that out of him. Like he's Vrabel would have, just been like whatever the whole time.
But you are what you are.
Right. You are who you are.
Don't be a tough guy if you're not a tough guy.
Right. But
I don't need that.
But it was like I heard that and I'm like, that's a football coach. Like, that's the emotion of showing, that you care about your team. And I agree. It may be too little, too late. But, it's like, where has that been?
It should have been there when Simmons acted a fool on the first day of training camp.
And he should have thrown his ass out of training camp.
And they knew then, Brian Callahan, they had you. They had you. When a referee says, if that's a game, I'd have thrown him out and you keep him in, they had you. You no longer ran that football team. You can argue me all day long in the face. I would love it. When you let Simmons do that in camp, you sent a message to all 90 guys that was in training camp at that time that the team is going to run you, and it ran you, okay? And that's what's happened. You're 3-11. You're not really a good coach, all right? You might be an okay quarterback coach, but as a head coach, you're not good. Your team is 3-11, and don't give me, well, he don't have a lot to work with. I don't hear that. I don't hear that. Your record is what your record is. And then yesterday, you're done. I think that was a speech like, I'm done. And maybe he doesn't want to come back. Hell, who knows? What I do know, that's the worst football team that's ever played in Nashville, Tennessee, and we sat through the 2004-2014 seasons. We're not that bad as what we're seeing out there. And then the comment about Jarvis Brownlee and Washington about being cold, he said he wasn't cold per se, but said he called teammates out about being cold.
Yeah.
So don't take that. The media, we do not take that out of context.
No.
That's what he said about his teammates.
Right. And
that is soft.
Right. And look, there's going to be, and I'm already seeing some text.
Get it, Chaser.
615-737-1025, or phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. I've talked about this before. I'm a fan. I got into this because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Titans. You may not always think that because of some of the things I say, but I am. I want them to be successful. It is good for our city. It's awesome to be a fan of a winning team, whether it's the Predators, the Titans, Nashville SC, whatever. Like, I want our teams to succeed. So I love the Titans, but I'm also going to call it like I see it, and I'm not one of those people that is so blinded by my fandom that all I see is two-tone blue.
Right.
That I'm going to be like, oh, you get him, coach. Go get him, coach. Two-tone till I die. Go get him, coach. Like Jeffrey Simmons does no wrong. Hey, you know what? They were cold. They need more jackets. They need to put heaters on the sideline so those guys aren't cold. Our boys are like, there are fans that it's like they could go 0-17 and you say this team sucks and they'll look at you and go, they're
That's
going to win
fine.
the Super Bowl.
That's fine. I love it. You need that.
Yeah.
That's fine. But you go on a rant yesterday about your team being I love you defending your guys. I love it. Too late.
Yeah.
Too late. They had you in training camp. We saw it with our own eyes in training camp. We saw that whole day unfold. We looked at each other and said, he's lost his team on day one. We said it.
Yeah.
We said it on the air.
I mean, look, he has had some missteps as the head coach, and I think he recognizes that. And if he does recognize that, like if I'm the owner and I'm sitting down with him and we go through that and he's like, I probably should have thrown Jeff out of camp. Okay. There's these things that have happened, this thing that happened. If I walk out of that meeting thinking, all right, he knows he recognizes he's made mistakes. He knows how to fix those mistakes. We're going to work on the roster. I'm willing to give this guy another opportunity. That's how I would go about it. Andy says it was both an embarrassing question and just out of line, stupid question. I felt I'd be pissed too. Andy, I'm curious. Why do you think it was an out of line question?
Yeah.
I mean, again, we just named some examples saying, some guys were affected by the cold. There was another thing.
You're 3-11. What do you want them to ask?
Yeah.
They're going to ask that thing,
Right.
those things.
Right.
And when your player comes out and says, some of the guys were, because it was cold out there, what do you think we're going to ask? Those guys are going to ask. And so that's what happened yesterday. Look, man, it's just you're 3-11 and you snapped yesterday, which is fine. I love the passion, but it's too little too late.
Yep. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phone calls, your texts on this. What do you think about Brian Callahan's rant yesterday? Are the Titans soft? I mean, that's a simple question. And is he a man that thinks that he is done? Bob Kessling going to join us at the bottom of the hour as we'll talk Vols and Ohio State with him. Chasing Big Joe live from the Omni, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
don't think guys was locked in anymore. I think guys let the cold get to them. Because, I'm a Florida guy. I don't like the cold, but I know what comes with playing in this profession. And sometimes, you're going to have to play through things that you don't like. And I think guys let the cold affect them. A lot of guys ain't going to say it, but that's what I think happened.
My pride.
That was Brownlee, I guess, a couple weeks ago when it was called. I know Brian Callahan was also asked about that in particular and followed up on it. But that was the original comments. Chase and Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game here on this Thursday. We're live at the Omni Nashville Hotel, taking your calls and your reactions to Brian Callahan's rant yesterday at his press conference when asked if his team was soft. 615-737-1025. Justin says, I think soft is one of those trigger words. This team may not be soft, but they are leaderless. That's really good.
That is good.
Who is the one rallying them back after a foul up? Who is the one slapping them and telling them to pick their heads up? When they got down against Washington, they just looked lost. They didn't know how to get back up off the mat and fight. They just looked uninterested in winning. Cancun on 3.
That's
this
always
team in
gonna be funny.
Cancun, I guess they are.
No, I don't think they're winning in Cancun. No, but what are we supposed to do when your player says the cold affected them? That's soft. That's not being a tough guy. That's soft. There's another way to read that. And look, let me add this too. Every football team I've been on, from Pee Wee to college, there are always 3 or 4 guys that push the coach to the limit to see what they can get away with. I think Jeffrey Simmons in camp did that. Every team has those guys who push the coach to the limit, see what they can get away with. It happens. And when Simmons did that in training camp, he buckled. Callahan buckled. He was afraid. It's okay. He was afraid. And that moment on, I was like, all right. And I said then, I was like, 5-12. We have it all on tape. It was 5-12 that day. We saw that. So now you're coming off blasting the media because you take things out of context. The old tired old, blame the media. Jalen Hurts gets on the press conference the other night, and he gets after the game. They beat the Steelers. He's like, is that what y'all wanted? That what y'all wanted? What do you mean we wanted? The media wanted?
Right.
You guys started all the
thing.
drama. Answer the damn question.
Right. Like, I hate it, and it's mainly players that do this, but I hate it when players, say you guys and pick fights with the media, and it's like, dude, we're just asking questions of what's out there.
That's it.
There's no picking a fight. Like, Karharski asks poignant questions that are very direct, and sometimes, he doesn't tiptoe around it. He asks straight up questions, and people don't like that. But it's like, okay, then answer the question and do something about it.
Exactly.
Stop complaining and saying we're out to get you. We're not.
Out to get you.
Joy from Bellevue says, I loved it. I was listening to it live on the show and thought it was amazing that nothing was bleeped out. I was rolling. It was hilarious. We tried. Was not really expecting that. So,
well, I asked you this question earlier, and this is kind of a little inside baseball. I mean, what do you do? You're not expecting a profanity-laced tirade from a coach.
Yeah, so, again, very inside baseball. We have a delay. We are in delay, but that delay only lasts so long, and when he keeps going like he did yesterday, the delay runs out. And that's ultimately what happened. And my guess is it happened in a lot of places.
And I'm an idiot. Can you not, after the delay, press another delay?
No, you only have so long and it has to build back up.
Okay.
So you got to give it time to build back up. But it's all good. It is what it is. Let's go to the phones. Trey wants to weigh in on Brian Callahan. Trey, what's up?
Hey, how y'all doing?
We're good, man.
Hey, I just wanted to say Jared ran the presser yesterday, and I couldn't believe what he had said. Number one, from what I got out of it, he has heard that before, or he has heard it from the radio or in print before. And for the reporter to say that yesterday, he just snapped. And he probably knows that they're soft like everybody else does. And I believe that if you get blowed out in the first quarter of a football game, you're soft. If you can't hold a lead at halftime and get blowed out in the second half, you're soft. You're soft and mediocre. And, that's just what I got to say. And y'all have a good day, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Trey. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Trey. Again, I go back to I think that's a coach who's seen enough and he's done. That's just me based on words, body language, and experience in my awful career of seeing people like I'm done and have they go out that way. I mean, he let it all go. I mean, I hope he felt
And
better
look,
yesterday.
I'm glad he did. But to Trey's point, I think there are times when like somebody says something to somebody else or asks a question and then you get a reaction like that, that reaction's there because there might be a little hint of truth.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, I don't think this is a quote unquote soft football team, but there have been some tendencies like Brownlee talking about the cold, the Simmons blow up. I'm sure there are some other examples.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, what also set him off was he just knows this is not a good football team.
Not at all.
And look, nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
If I mean, we both know Derek Mason very well. If he was still playing and we said to him like, "Hey, your football team's not very good," he'd be pissed off.
Yeah, should be.
And he should be.
Right.
And like that's the reaction.
And Callahan, you're the head coach. Your team's not any good. There's really, if you start blaming people, that's like, oh, he's just blaming people. You're the head coach at the end of the day. Your team's 3-11. You're not very good. It is what it is. And the old Bill Parcells, your record is what your record is, and all that other stuff. And it's frustrating, I know, because you want to win games. Brian Callahan, I mean, he's been on winning teams. 21, he went to the Super Bowl with the Bengals. I mean, he's been on winning teams. Losing sucks. I'm telling you, it's the worst, and it's the worst. And you feel like there's no way out of this except put your feet down and, keep working and grinding to get it done. But I'm telling you, man, I've never heard a press conference Titans-wise like that. Now, I've heard players rant throughout. Keith Bullock was great when they went through a losing streak. Fantastic to talk to because he hurt.
Yeah.
He was hurting. Vanden Bosch.
Jurrell Casey was good about it.
Hurting. Those guys hate to lose. If you had a locker room full of Keith Bullocks and Jurrell Casey's and Kyle Vanden Bosches, you'd win the Super Bowl every year.
So I'm going to tell you a quick story. You might remember this because I think you were there too. I can't remember who it was they were playing. I want to say it was like the Jets or something like that. They won the football game, but Jurrell Casey did not have a good game. He had a couple of penalties and misses and everything. And so we're all in the locker room after the game and walk up to him. And he just turns around and he's like, "Guys, I don't really have anything. Appreciate it." And we kind of looked at him and he was like, "I was bleeped today and I'm going to answer for that, but you guys don't deserve, I don't deserve the time to talk about our win because I didn't help it." It's basically how he was.
Good.
And I looked at everybody kind of walked off and I was like, "Hey, keep your head up, man. Like you're a big part of this team, but I respect that." And he's like, I appreciate that. Like, I hate that. Like I expect better of myself. And like, I walked away and I was like, that's a dude. That's a guy that gets it. That's a leader that, and you could say like, well, he should have talked and what. No, I respected how he was like, I'm not going to say anything productive because I'm pissed at myself that I had such a bad game. Like and so, I gained a lot of respect for Jurrell Casey that day. I can't remember who it was against, but
yeah, few and far between, man. Those guys are few and far between. But right now, I mean, it lashed out, and to me, that's a man who's done. That's my opinion. It's probably wrong, but that's a man that's done.
Yep. Coming up next, we'll shift gears. The Vols head to Columbus to take on Ohio State in the first round of the college football playoff. The voice of the Vols, Bob Kessling, going to join us coming up next. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chasing Big Joe on this Thursday, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, as the Vols get ready to play in the college football playoff for the first time, as they will head to Columbus to take on Ohio State. I believe only the second time those two teams have met. We bring in the voice of the Vols, Bob Kesling, who is on the line with us. Bob, good morning. How the heck are you?
I'm terrific. You got me riled up with that Rocky Top intro. That's good. I appreciate that.
I hope that, that's going to be playing a lot, even if it's in enemy territory. But, I know that you're looking for that too. But got to be fun, just with the history of college football and these two programs to now go call a game at the Shoe in Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first 12-team playoff, first time Tennessee's ever played at Ohio State, first time they've ever played a game up there in December at the Shoe, and first time Tennessee's ever played a game in the state of Ohio. So a lot of things historically to be said, but then we get down to it. This is a matchup of, I think, really two pretty evenly matched football teams, and both are looking to run the ball and both trying to make some big plays in the passing game, and both teams will rely on their defense. So, in Big Ten football, if you run the ball and play good defense, you've got a good chance of winning. And Tennessee's used that formula this year to win, and they'll have to use it again. And the kicking game, I think, will be important for Tennessee Saturday. Jackson Ross has just been so terrific, punting teams back and pinning them back inside the 10-yard line. And I don't care who you are, it's hard to go 90 yards against these defenses these days. And so the kicking game will be a key factor for Tennessee as well.
Bob, you've had the best seat in the house to watch Nico in his first year as a starter for the Vols. And I look, like any young quarterback, he's going to go through some growing pains. We've seen some good, we've seen some bad, maybe a little ugly at times. What have you kind of made of his first year as the starter and how he's kind of gotten used to this Josh Heupel offense?
Yeah, I think the expectations were so ramped up so high, probably unfairly for Nico. Everybody took what he did against Iowa and just thought that was going to take off and that he's just going to build on that and hit all these big 50-yard touchdown passes and just be spectacular. But you've got to remember, when the season started, he had just started one game in his college career, and he hadn't really faced these good defenses in the SEC. And so, everybody wanted to make him out to be the next Peyton Manning or the next Hendon Hooker or Heath Schuler, and that just really wasn't fair. And he's grown. It's maybe the progression hadn't been as fast as everybody might have hoped for or expected, but I think he's getting to the point now where he's finding his second and third receivers. He's got a lot more patience back there in the pocket, and he's got elite arm talent. You saw that the very first day he went out on the practice field, and he can make all the throws, and he's got what you like in terms of his size at 6'6" and his running ability. So he's got all those intangibles you need as a quarterback. And now it's just a matter of reading defenses and finding your second and third receivers. And I think the last 5 games, he's only, thrown one interception, I think, since the Alabama game. So, he's really taking care of the football, and that's a key thing in this Josh Heupel offense.
Absolutely. The great Bob Kesling is on the Chasing Big Joe show. And Bob, I am fortunate enough to call MTSU football games with Chip Walters. And this season, we sat down one time, and he talked about all the places in his great career he's called football games. Have you ever done that? Just sat down with somebody and marked off all the places you've called a football game?
Yeah, and especially since, I announced that this is my last year, I've just looked at, I called games in the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl. I called games at Notre Dame Stadium, at Oregon, at the LA Coliseum.
Wow.
Just go down the list of all these. Now, I've never called a game at Texas. I was born in Dallas, and so I always wanted to call a game at Texas, and I always wanted to call a game at Michigan and Ohio State. So I won't get those two, but I will check off Ohio State on Saturday, and that'll be very, very special for me. So, yeah, and, in basketball, doing games just the other night, doing a game at Madison Square Garden. It's incredible. And, doing games at Pauley Pavilion and Allen Fieldhouse at Kansas and up at Ohio State and all these different places, and Rupp Arena. These different places we get to go. You kind of pinch yourself every once in a while thinking, we're getting paid to do this. That's what makes it even better. It's best seat in the house when we're getting paid to do it. It's really – but we're all blessed, I think, that in this business. And you guys, the same thing. The people you get to talk to, the experiences you get, that's not just a normal life. We got a chance to be in a pretty good seat to do a lot of special stuff.
And I asked that because you were asked this question and randomly not too long ago, and you had said all the great places, there's nothing better than being in Neyland. And for some reason, Bob, that gave me goosebumps because all the great places you've been, still Neyland, there's no other place like it.
Well, when I was doing Jefferson Pilot games for 10 years, I was at a different football stadium every Saturday, and very, very rarely did I get a chance to do a game at Tennessee. And so when I went to these other places in the SEC, that even gave me a greater appreciation of just how special Neyland Stadium is. And you kind of missed, doing games there. But yeah, I saw all the other teams, every single stadium in the SEC, and did games at all those stadiums. And the whole time I was thinking, well, this is good, but it's not Neyland Stadium.
Yeah.
And Neyland Stadium has that special feel for you. I remember as a freshman in 1972, when I saw him run through the tee for the first time, I just started jumping up and down. I thought that was the coolest thing that I'd ever seen. And that hadn't faded. I mean, it's still special every time that tee opens and those orange shirts come running through there. It is special. And, the thing about it, it's the passion of Tennessee fans. Lindsey Nelson once told me, said, and I got a chance to know Lindsey when he moved back here and retired, and we spent a lot of time together. In fact, I was the sports director at Channel 10, and he'd come over and do these little 3-minute vignettes like Andy Rooney used to do on 60 Minutes called Lindsey at Large. And they were tremendous. They weren't about sports. They were about why is Gay Street in Knoxville named Game Street, and where's the general buried, and all those type of things. But we would sit there and talk, and I got a great classroom session on how to be a broadcaster, how to be a professional, and all those type of things. And he always told me, he said, don't take a job unless there's passion, and not necessarily your passion, but the passion of the fan base. If you take a job where they don't care, the games aren't any fun. And go to a place where it really means something. And that stuck in the back of my mind. And that is so true about Tennessee because, I mean, they're on every single play. They're on every single game. They're on every single next quarterback and all those type of things. It's important and it matters to people. And that's why this job's even more special for me.
Beautiful.
The great Bob Kesling is on the line with us. Why was now the right time for you to make this decision to step away?
Well, today's my birthday. I turned 51 today. Yeah, how about that? I've quit counting them a while back, but I circled when I took the job. I circled on my calendar that when I turned 65, that I would retire, and that was I'd been 20 years into the job. I would think that's probably enough. But after that, after my 65th birthday, every year we would sit down and talk to people at the Vol Network at the university. Do you want to do it? You still got juice in the tank. I said, yeah, I want to go another year. So I've been year by year for the last 5 years. And then this year we kind of sat down and they said, well, we need a plan because we need to, in case, God forbid, something happens to you or you decide you just don't want to do this anymore, we need to have a plan. So what do you think? And I just couldn't commit to 3 or 4 or 5 more years. And so we just kind of talked it through. I've got my 5th grandkid coming up in April. And I was thinking too, Tammy and I, my wife, she wanted me to retire a couple of years ago because I've been every year since 1974, I've been on the weekend. I've been traveling on the weekend doing football and basketball games. And it's time to spend time with the family. And I have 2 grandsons, 11 and 9, and they played Pee Wee football this year. I didn't see one of their games because I had a game on my own that day. Yeah. And I just don't want to miss those games anymore. And they're going to be a bunch more coming up. But basketball, I haven't been to one of their basketball games yet this year because I've been traveling. We've got basketball games. They've got a game tomorrow morning, and I won't be able to go to it because I'm traveling. So anyway, it just feels right, and you want to get out while people still think you're doing a decent job, and it just felt it was time for me to move over and let somebody else sit in the seat. So, but I'm happy with the decision. I'll miss the games. You guys know the games are fun, and going to the games and covering the games and being around the players and the coaches, that's what's fun. And I'll miss that, but I'll find other things to do. My wife has already set down one rule that in retirement, I'm limited to 1 hour of Seinfeld a day. That's it. So I've got to find something else. And she said, don't even think about 2.5 Men. You're not going to watch that. So it's just Seinfeld. So anyway, so I'm trying to figure out how to fill up the rest of the day. But I'll find something. I'll do something, and I'll have a good time.
How much, when I knew we were going to have you on, I was kind of thinking about this because, when I was young, and obviously I remember '98, John Ward was still doing games. You were obviously a part of things, and then you take over. Now you've kind of been the voice of the Vols for a generation that has grown up with you, like so many did with John. But have you kind of taken time to think about those days, working with him, and maybe some advice that he gave you when he stepped away, and that you might pass on to the next guy?
John and I never talked about me succeeding him or me taking over or what I needed to do when I moved over in that one seat over from being a spotter to doing the play-by-play. He was gracious when he stepped away that he didn't do interviews, and I don't plan to do any interviews either after I step away because you've got to clear the path for the new guy.
Yeah.
Now, in my early days, he gave me probably the best bit of advice in terms of being a broadcaster that I ever had. I got to do Lady Vol basketball because John Ward and A.W. Davis decided they couldn't do both men and women. John started out doing Lady Vol basketball in the postseason games, and then he decided he couldn't do them all, so it kind of fell on my lap, and that's how I got to start doing Lady Vol basketball in the late 70s. Guys, I got paid $15 a game, and I had and if there was a road game, I had to pay for my own gas. So that's how glamorous that job was when I took it. And so we had there was a broadcast ramp up at Stokely that hung out over the floor, and so back then they did some doubleheader games. And so here I am. I'm just right out of college. I might have still been in college. I can't remember, but I'm early 20s, and I'm thinking I'm a big shot. I'm doing SEC basketball, and this is pretty good. And so we had a doubleheader game, and so Lady Vols played the first game, and then the men were playing the second game. And so I was calling the Lady Vol game, and I taped part of it. And after our game was over, before John started his broadcast, I took the tape over to him and said, "Mr. Ward, would you be gracious enough to critique this tape to give me some advice about being a broadcaster?" He said, "Yes, I'd love to do that." So he opened up his orange briefcase, put the tape in there, and I hadn't heard from him. And about 2 weeks later, we had another doubleheader game. So after our game was over, before he started the Vol Network broadcast, I walked over to him and I said, "Mr. Ward, did you have a chance to critique my tape?" And he said, yes, I did. So he opened up the briefcase, handed me the tape, handed it back to me and said, "Try advertising." And he turned and walked away. So that kind of gave me a quick inclination. I'm not very good, and if I want to do this, I better get better in a hurry. But he helped me along the way. He, when I was sitting next to him, spotting for him for 15 years, which was incredible. And I had a chance to go to some smaller schools to do play-by-play, but I thought I'd learn more sitting next to John than I would going out and venturing out on my own. And the preparation work he did, he got his law degree, but he never practiced law.
Wow.
But he approached the broadcasts like he was getting ready to, do a jury trial or something. He had, he had typed notes, pages and pages. He might use 20% of it, but he had all this preparation work. And that's what he taught me. He always said, when you get tired of doing the prep work, you need to quit doing the games because it'll show. And then that is true. And I'm not tired of the prep work yet, but I can see where that could get to you, where, especially now with the internet, you've got to spend so much time on the internet looking up stories, and you've got to know something about all the other guys in the other team too. So, but his prep work was meticulous. And you know what? We had back then, and back in the 70s, when I started spotting for him, we got into the 80s. Very few games were on television, and maybe you get one or two a year back then. And he would never let us have a TV on in the booth. He would never let us watch replays and things like that, because he always used to say, "We're radio guys. We got to get it right the first time, and I need you to concentrate. I don't need you looking at a TV monitor. I need you to concentrate on the field." Wow. And he said, I don't need you excited about a Tennessee-Alabama game. I need you prepared. And that's what he would tell us before every big game. I don't need you excited. Be prepared. And he would let you make one mistake, but you better not make the same mistake twice, because if you did that, your chances of surviving weren't very good. And I saw him run off a bunch of people. And so luckily I was able to learn from that. And I just tried to be the best spotter I could be. But I learned so much from him and Lindsey Nelson. I was really blessed in those days as a young broadcaster, just trying to figure out how to do this the proper way. And those guys taught me a lot.
And so, Bob, when you write your autobiography, try advertising better be the title. Right?
Yeah, that'll be in there somewhere. Maybe in that's it. I mean, I had another great deal with Pat Summitt. Pat Summitt was, people forget she went 7 times to the Final Four before she won her first championship. Everybody thought she was just this great success from day one, but she wasn't. And so after she had lost that 7th game in the Final Four before winning, she went to Phil Jackson and had him teach her about the triangle offense with Michael Jordan, because she had Shamiko Holtzclaw. Went to Jim Boeheim, learned how to play zone, and kind of reinvented herself. And she broke everything down. So I took her to lunch one day, and I asked her those questions. What kept you going? Especially after she won the 84 Olympics, people thought that, how can you get better than the Olympics, that she'd retire and start having a family. But she kept going because she wanted to get over that hump. She wanted to win that championship. And she broke everything down and just rebuilt the program from the base, and it paid off with the great success for her with those 8 championships. But I took her to lunch one day after she won the first one. I kind of asked her, what motivated you to keep going? Because I'd been doing the same thing for 4 or 5 years and trying to figure out how come my career wasn't moving forward very fast. And so after she laid out her deal, I laid out my deal. And I wasn't asking her to make any phone calls for me or anything. I was just asking her, I wanted a kick in the butt is what I wanted. And so Pat looked at me and she said, I don't know what the politics are of hiring people and what ESPN and all these other guys do, how they hire folks. My guess is the reason your phone is not ringing is that you're just not good enough. And I went, what? I mean, she hit me in the head with a hammer. I wasn't expecting that. And she said, no, I think you're good because we put your broadcast over all our tapes and our films so we know what the score is and how much time's left in the game. I think you do a great job, but somebody doesn't. And if you want to get better and move up, get better. Get better tonight. Go to your newscast tonight at Channel 10 and be better. Make your next broadcast better. You got to work at this. You got to work hard. I mean, she basically told me the same thing she tells her players every day.
Yeah.
And it was such a motivational lunch. And I took it to heart. And the next year, Jefferson Pilot hired me to start doing SEC games on TV. So her advice paid off. So those 2 bits of advice, you're not good enough, and try advertising, were 2 of the biggest sentences in my career that helped motivate me a little bit.
I love it. Real quick, I'm not going to ask you your favorite player, but you've been on the Vol broadcast a long time. Is there a favorite moment? And my favorite moment, Del Jones intercepting Mike Shula in 1985 is my favorite moment of all time. Do you have one that maybe stands out above anything else?
Well, I think the Alabama game 2 years ago when we hit that field goal, and that just brought Tennessee football back to being prominent. I mean, that was such a special moment. I do remember the 6 overtime game against Arkansas where Casey Clausen did Jason Witten. Those are 2 of my favorite players in Tennessee history. Real quick, I'll tell you the story, and I know you guys got to go, but I'll tell you this, you'll like this one. At the Alabama game 2 years ago, my daughter took our 2 grandkids, and so they're trying to see the game, and they can't see the game because people are standing up. So they're on bleachers, and they're looking around and everything. Well, now it comes time for Chase McGrath to come out and kick that game-winning field goal. And so it goes through, and people are going crazy and jumping around, and my daughter looks for our grandson, who's 7, George. He's gone. He's not there. Doesn't know where he is. He might be on the light towers as far as she knows. She's panicking. She can't find him. And she looks across the aisle about 4 seats down, and there's George on the shoulders of this guy, jumping up and down, high-fiving each other. And I said, Allison, did you even know who the guy was? He said, no, I had no idea. I'd never met the guy. But he saw George trying to see the game, and he said, young man, this is a game you're going to remember the rest of your life. And he picked him up and put him on his shoulders so George could see that game-winning kick. And there were stories like that all through the stadium that night. And that's why that Alabama game, I think, will be so special for so many years, because that really was the stepping stone to get Tennessee back to college football prominence. And it's just a big win, and people still talk about it all the time. So that was a really special game.
that's an awesome story.
Yes.
My takeaway from this entire interview is Bob had enough clout that he could take Pat Summitt to lunch. Like that.
Well,
I mean that, and then she told him that he wasn't good enough.
yeah. And then she sticks me with the tab. I mean, I had to pay for lunch too. She tells me I'm no good, and now I also have to pay for lunch. How's that work? I don't know.
I mean, like you think about all the coaches that you covered, Majors, Fulmer, Pat Summitt. I mean, it's awesome. Bob,
Yeah, Rick Barnes. Throw Rick Barnes in there too. Now he was special. And Bruce Pearl.
Oh yeah.
Those guys were good.
Hey, the men are pretty good right now. So
not bad.
This
could
be a special year, obviously, for Vol Sports. But I hope we have at least another chance to talk to you. Hopefully, this thing keeps going with football. But if we don't, you've always been very gracious with your time and coming on with us. And I really appreciate it. Even when I did a Saturday morning show, Bob would come on and talk about things. So thank you so much, and we look forward to hopefully seeing a win Saturday night in Columbus.
That'd be special. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Take care.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob Kesling, the voice of the Vols, joining us here on the program. That's awesome.
Wow.
I mean, I texted Nick. I was like, "Hey, this is good. We're gonna keep going. Let Bob tell stories."
Goodness.
Pat said, "Well, maybe you're just not good at it."
Try advertising.
That was awesome. We will come back with hour number 2 live from the Omni. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game on this Thursday. We're live at the Omni Nashville Hotel at Bar Lines. Come by and see us downtown Nashville, right next to the Music City Center and Bridgestone Arena. What a fun conversation with Bob Kessling. That was awesome.
We could have gone another 2 hours
Yeah.
easily on all that. And, he's so just so great, so gracious. Every time you see him, he's so friendly, so nice, and he truly is larger than life. I mean, it's Bob Kessling. I mean, you call and all these great announcers throughout with John Ward, and I love Joe Fisher at Vanderbilt. I mean, I'm going to say right now, I love Joe at Vanderbilt and all the great announcers around the SEC. And so they become part of your family. And so Bob, he's been there since 1998 as the prior 99 as a primary voice. It was just great, man.
You just said something to me after the interview that I didn't even think about. And I'm kind of glad I didn't think about it. But how did John Ward go out? Feels like 98.
Sure did.
Just saying. So
98, Tempe, Arizona. They beat Florida State when national championship. So it'd be great to see Bob.
And he was not doing basketball, I don't think.
I think
Bob had taken over basketball at that point.
So, the Vols win, they go to the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
If they win, just hypothetically, if they win the Rose Bowl, where's next? Cotton Bowl? I don't know.
I'd have to look at the bracket. That's a really good question.
I don't think the Cotton Bowl, maybe the Orange Bowl. I don't know. It's one of those, but my goodness. And here's a great thing too. If you're the college football playoff, you want Tennessee to keep winning because this Orange Nation will travel everywhere they go. And I love it, man. They'll go everywhere this team plays. Rose Bowl next week will be half orange.
All right. So they'd go to the Rose and then, I think it would be orange or cotton. It doesn't really say.
The Orange, inventing the Orange Bowl. Again, 2 years ago against Clemson, I didn't go, but I had friends that went. And they're like, yeah, it's about 80% orange down here. So good for them, man.
I'm trying to find if it tells you. It just says TB. Oh, here we go. They would go to the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl, okay.
Yep.
Still, that's Dallas isn't far away. 10-hour drive.
So,
boom.
Winner of Clemson, Texas plays Arizona State at the Peach Bowl. Vols will play Vols or Ohio State will play Oregon at the Rose. Winner of SMU Penn State plays Boise at the Fiesta. And then the winner of Indiana Notre Dame plays Georgia at the Sugar Bowl.
What a route for Penn State. I mean, they should easily handle SMU and they should easily handle Boise State.
Yep. Well,
if Notre Dame wins, where do they go?
Notre Dame. If Notre Dame wins, they play Georgia at the Sugar. Notre Dame, Notre Dame, Georgia at the Sugar Bowl.
New Orleans, New Year's Eve. Is it New Year's Eve or New Year's Day?
It is New Year's Day.
Oh my gosh.
New Year's night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the only playoff game that's on New Year's Eve would be the Fiesta Bowl. So it'd be either SMU, Penn State, and Boise.
If I win Mega Millions or Powerball the next 2 days, me, you, and Ricky. Hey, Todd Rodermill. We're going to that game. So keep your fingers crossed. We're going to the Sugar Bowl. Georgia, Notre Dame. We're going down there and fight a bunch of Catholics and then fight a bunch of redneck Georgia fans. Perfect day, man.
I mean, I kind of want to go to the Rose Bowl.
What time? Well, yeah, you got me on that one.
Yeah.
I've never been to the Rose Bowl.
Me neither.
Okay.
So,
all right, me and Ricky.
I've been to the Dome. I've been to the Superdome.
I've been there.
But
that'd be great.
I went to the Peach Bowl last year.
What is that? New Year's Day, the Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay. What time?
3:00 our time.
All right.
So
God, that'd be a great day of TV. Gosh, my Lord.
They would.
It'd be so much fun to do that.
Hypothetically speaking, we could go, because at this point you're rich. We could go to the Rose and then get the jet waiting on us.
It's a 4-hour flight.
Yeah, but we're coming back. So, yeah. So we might make it by halftime.
Okay. All right.
Have the helicopter, standing by it.
Or we could do New Orleans New Year's Eve and then hop a flight at midnight to that's probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
All the
none of this is
that's happening.
We'll have Todd get us some rooms at the Omni. We're out there.
There we have it. I asked Bob, and I want to ask you this. I know you're way younger than I am, and you grew up in Vanderbilt. the greatest play you've ever, your favorite play of all time?
Oh man.
I mean, I go back to the Dale Jones play in 1985 because I'm a big Dale Jones fan. He intercepted the pass at Shula. They beat Bama down in Birmingham. That was a huge moment. And then the Jeff Powell against Miami in the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day 1986, when they blasted Miami and he took the sweep around the left end and took off. Those are great moments. I'm an older guy, but those are great. And I'm not a huge Tennessee fan, but those were just important milestone moments in the program. What stands out? Any sport. I mean, any team.
So, well, it's funny when you asked him that question, he brought up Alabama 2 years ago and Chase McGrath lining up to hit the kick. Immediately in my head, I saw Jeff Hall against Florida.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that game. And look, I grew up a Vanderbilt fan, but I was like a lot of kids back in that day in 98. I was all in on the Vols.
Mm-hmm.
I was invested. And because it was like, hey, here's something special. I had loved Peyton. I liked T. Martin a lot. So I was all in. And when they beat Florida and how big of a deal that was, and that was at Neyland, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I think the goalpost came down.
Sure did. Saturday night.
But like that was such a big deal. And it was kind of like at that moment, you realize, hey, they might have something pretty special here. So that's probably one that I don't know if that's my favorite of all time. I mean, looking at from a Vanderbilt when they held Arian Foster out of the end zone up there in Vanderbilt and Cutler and that group in 05, beat Tennessee to keep them out of a bowl game. That was a pretty big deal.
Cutler was a warrior in that game. They hit him every time he threw the ball. He got
beat to hell.
All the respect for him in that game, and then the pass to Bennett to win the game and all that. But I mean, that's cool. All the things that Bob has witnessed and that these play-by-play guys get to witness throughout is a cool thing. And so, I mean, and ask him to pick a favorite player is not fair. It's
no.
I mean, he saw Reggie White, Willie Galt, Al Wilson. I mean, Peyton Manning, and on and on and on. So many great players have come through there that I'm sure impacted him in different ways. But there's been so many great, and then basketball on top of that.
What's funny, what stood out to me at the very end when I said, you had John Majors, Phil Fulmer, Pat Summitt, he made it a point to say Rick Barnes.
Yeah.
Which he's still there, obviously, but like I thought that was really cool. Says a lot about Rick Barnes and the impact that he's made. Because I mean, you had other basketball coaches come through there. Was it Ray Mears?
Yes.
Ray Mears. He had Rick Mears.
Rick Mears is the
one's a race car driver. Yeah,
Ray Mears. Yeah,
you had Ray Mears. You had Bruce
Don DeVoe, Bruce Pearl.
Yeah, I mean, like he had a lot of coaches that he covered. Obviously, Majors and Fulmer probably are the two with football, top two outside of maybe Heupel now. But but I mean, just the legends that went through that place.
Were you old enough to get the Jeff Pilot games?
Yeah.
On the back before they flipped over to Raycom and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Because there were some.
I grew up on Jefferson Pilot.
Those were great. Saturday morning, man, you could watch
11 o'clock.
Ole Miss and Memphis play, and just something that wasn't all SEC or whatever.
It was Dave Neal did a lot of those games.
Whoever was that, his dad? It's Bob Neal.
Or maybe it was Bob Neal. Yeah.
Bob Neal, and then it was Dave Archer did some of those, and then Tim or Tom Foley did the games.
Yeah.
So those were fun to watch.
Durham do a few games?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But back for us, I mean, we would watch 11 o'clock. You get to see the Southern Miss versus Florida. I mean, not the typical. It was never. There was SEC matchups all the time, but you'd see the other kind of sub games with
a lot of Ole Miss games. I remember a lot of Ole Miss games
in those days. Yep.
And Vandy. I mean, Vandy had a lot of those games too.
Yeah.
But just the. Somebody texted in like, do you think you could work out a deal with Bob where he'd come on every now and then and just tell stories? I would love that, but he did. Like he said it that out of respect to the next guy, like I'm not going to do a lot of interviews, and I find that interesting because when he said that about John Ward, I was like, I don't like when he was done, he was done.
He was.
He rode off into the sunset, and now I do wonder: is Kenny Chesney going to write a song for Bob Kessling like he did for John Ward? Because I think he should.
Probably should. I mean, it's John Ward was, I mean, it was growing up hearing him and everything. It was just an amazing time. But those like Kaywood Lefford in Kentucky and Munson and Georgia and
Yeah.
Eli in Alabama and on and on. I mean, these guys become part of your family because they're in your radio, in your car, in your house all the time. And so, yeah, Hill's it's be tough. I mean, he had to replace John Ward, and we always say never replace a legend. Bob did a great job, and now somebody's got to replace him. And I think you should have the job, Chase. I think you should do it.
Touchdown, Tennessee.
Why not? There you go. Send that clip to Bob.
So you know what's funny? He'll tell me to go into advertising. What what was funny is the first time. So this was probably 2007. I had just gotten out of high school and started at MTSU, and FRA started. It was the early days of webcasting. Started, webcasting their football games, and so they let me come and do play-by-play. The first touchdown I ever called.
Oh no.
Was for FRA. I don't know. It was just, you could tell who I listened to growing up. But I said, give him 6. And everybody in the booth looked at me and said, okay, John.
Well, why wouldn't you?
But I mean, he was somebody
Yes.
I idolized and looked up to. Like I listened to his games, and
Yes.
basketball. Sometimes I'd say bottoms. Like those were
Sure.
iconic little things that he would say.
We said string music.
String music, yeah.
From, I think it was Joe Dean. Was that who it was? Joe Dean Jr., Joe Dean, whoever it was.
One of them.
Yeah, I mean, we'd always do that. And it's funny because how this all evolved. One of the greatest college football color commentators was the athletic director at Arkansas.
Oh, really?
Frank Broyles was the
Yeah.
athletic director at Arkansas, and he would call. It's like that would never happen today.
No.
Can you imagine Danny White at Tennessee being the color commentator for ESPN games? It would never happen. And if you get a chance, it's on YouTube, but go back and listen to Keith Jackson and Frank Broyles call the '86 Sugar Bowl when Tennessee beat Miami. Even if you're not a big Tennessee fan, just hearing those voices and that crowd and the game is something I will never, ever forget. And I'm sure most Tennessee fans won't either, but it was just, these guys are larger than life, and Bob will always be that way.
Yeah, for sure. 615-737-1025. We'll get back into Brian Callahan's rant yesterday when asked if his team was soft. If you missed it, you'll hear it coming up next. It's Chase and Big Joe. We're live at the Omni Nashville Hotel at Barlines, 1025, 1063, The Game.
There are a lot of folks who think this team is soft physically and mentally. How would you respond to that idea?
I mean, you really want to get me going today? Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think it's complete and total bull. If you want my honest opinion, these guys are tough, man. They go after it every day. They play hard as hell. And there's at no point have we ever put on tape at any point this season that this is a soft football team. Like I can't even wrap my mind around how that would even be a conversation. I mean, just because we don't win games doesn't mean we're soft. These guys play their ass off. They play hard. They play physical. You can ask any team that plays against us that when they come off the field, they know they played us. Yeah, that makes me relatively angry that would be some presumption. That means you just don't watch the you don't do anything about it, that you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're looking at. So I'm not going to stand for anybody calling this football team soft. I think that's so if there's opinions out there that feel that way, then they don't know anything about NFL football. So I'd like you to walk in there and call one of these guys soft and see what happens. This is not a soft football team at all, mentally or physically. And I think one of the things mentally that's really been impressive about the team is that the way that they keep fighting through the way that this season has gone. They've not shown at any point that they're not up to the task. They come out every day and work. I'm really you're gonna really get me going now. I mean, these guys come out here and they do everything possible to win games. And if there's any assumption anywhere that's outside of this building, again, we don't focus on all those things, but there's no possible explanation to say that this team is soft any way, shape, or form, mentally or physically. And the way that they go about their work it's insulting to me, to them, to everyone that works here. So I'm not that no chance ever in hell would I ever admit that to be the case, and neither would anybody in this locker room. So you can kind of shove that one right up your, to be honest. So.
That's my favorite part of that whole. Oh, I love that.
Shove it up your. That's like the argument with your family on Christmas. Oh, by the way, you can shove it up, and then you walk out, man.
It's kind of like you say something like that, you go, well, all right, the argument's over. But I don't think there's really any coming back from that.
Well, what if somebody emails Titans Day and says, "Hey, I like to come in there and call them soft"? Do you say no?
Love to see that.
I mean, your coach says walk in there and call them soft. I'm sure some stupid YouTuber will be like, "I want to go in there and do that," and then because you see it all the time, they try to provoke people.
Yeah.
But that ending, that's a great ending, man. Just
look, and we said it.
Oh yeah,
tough guy. We said it to start the show. Look, I'm glad he did that. I wish there had been some of that passion and everything sooner. I don't think this team is necessarily soft. I think they've had some soft tendencies. Excuse me, some soft tendencies when talking about it's cold and Jeffrey Simmons' little blow up in training camp, but I think at the end of the day, it just isn't a good football team. And that's frustrating. And, I think that when, and you kind of heard as he went along that he got more and more mad. When you get mad about something like that, it means, that there's a little inkling of truth. And he obviously wants to fix that. I like Brian Callahan, and I've said that. Like, I think if
buddies,
if they make some changes in the front office, which I think they should make some changes in the front office, he should, be evaluated by the next guy and given a fair chance. But ultimately, this is not a good team. It's not a good football team.
No.
And they're not going to be a good football team this year. They're making a quarterback change. They're going to Mason Rudolph. He made that official yesterday, which, I mean, at this point, I don't really know what that does. But, they've ultimately decided to do that. And so I get the frustration.
I'm just thinking that Indianapolis at Jacksonville, then Houston. You lose Indianapolis on Sunday, and then you go to Jacksonville. You're 3-12, and they're probably going to be 3-12. I mean, it's just. I mean, they should let people in they should pay people to go to that game next week down to Jacksonville. But I think Will Levis. I know maybe Rudolph's coaching. I mean, that Callahan thinks he can, get 5-6 wins which is great. You go to work every day, you want to win, but. I mean, if you think Mason Rudolph's going to get you these wins, why didn't you start him in the season?
Right. Well, I mean,
an experiment that
hindsight's 2020.
It is.
But I do think from the locker room standpoint, and like if he makes this move and he goes to Rudolph, and they win, they win out. obviously there's going to be people that are going like, well, that screws up the draft pick and all that stuff. These guys don't care about that.
Right.
It sends a message to the locker room. Hey boys, I'm here to win. And I want you guys to be here to win too. We didn't have a great year. We haven't been a good team, but we're going to fix that. Do I think Mason Rudolph is the answer moving forward? Absolutely not. But, at this point, if you're still trying to win and you have that mindset, which is what you should have as a head coach, and the players on that team, Will Levis was terrible in his last game. His confidence is shaken, goes back to the sideline. And, he commented yesterday that, look, he's going to take this in stride. He's going to hope that, he can learn from it and, still thinks he can be a franchise quarterback in this league. I don't think he can. I think he'll, be a fringe starter or a backup. That's kind of what he is. But I respect Brian Callahan a little bit more because he showed some emotion that, quite frankly, I think he's been needing to show.
Right. Well, I mean, to me, the guy does when he thinks, all right, I got nothing left here. I don't care who I make mad or what goes on. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to go out fighting for these guys. And that's it. I look, I don't know. And then, you hear Paul talking today on the morning show about they're not going to make any changes. He's hearing him. And Jared's like, they need to make change. I'm in the middle. I go back and forth. I think everybody should be gone because it's a terrible team, the terrible franchise. They've made terrible decisions. Why not clean house? It's okay. As we talk about, it's not personal, it's business. These guys know if you move on, it's okay. Hey, slap you on the back. Hey, great job. Move on. Start brand new. Why not? Do you want to? So you come back with the same thing next year and you get the same thing? Show me that it's going to be any better. I don't think it can.
Yeah.
I don't think it can. And then I'm telling you guys, you talk about this new stadium hasn't no effect on anything. I think it does.
Oh, it does.
In some shape, form, or fashion, this new stadium is weighing heavily on her mind. If she tells you otherwise, lying to you.
I'll tell you something else that I think's weighing heavily on her mind, and they're never going to admit it. But she hears what's being said.
Oh no, they don't hear us.
Oh yeah, she hears.
They don't hear us.
Now, whether she cares, I don't know. I think she probably does, but I'm wondering what that's going to do. Like if she hears this stuff and it hears that, oh, it's her mess, she started it, all that stuff, like what's going to be the reaction? Because again, we all know this. They're listening. They know what's being said.
Do you know good and well she has her own Smithers?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what are they saying about me? And they're like, oh, loving what you're doing, loving everything. And it's okay, good, and goes on. They all have these people.
I hope she has the one person that goes, actually, Amy, this is what they're saying.
Who's going to tell her that? There's nobody going to tell her that over there.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell her that. If somebody,
I mean, I know.
honest,
look, I know there are people that don't hear things directly, but then they're told about it, and then they tell her about it.
What if she asked you? What if she said, Chase, how are things going? How am I being perceived? Well, Amy, have a seat.
There are people over there that have my number and can give it to her. I mean, go
Free
ahead.
to come on.
That was a Jeff Fisher line. They got my number.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rand, Chad.
No, I mean, it
all of them. Come on.
Yeah, I would love for it to be an on-air interview, but if I got a phone call one day and it was like, hello, this is Chase. This is Amy. I'd be like, well, hi, Amy. How you doing?
Hey, Amy, this is Chase.
What can I help you with? I'd tell her. I'd be like, look.
What's the first thing you would tell her? The first thing.
If she said, okay.
Shoot it to me straight, Chase.
Shoot it to me straight. I would say you messed up when you fired Robinson when you fired him.
Well, I know that. Next question.
No, she wouldn't say I know that. She would probably say, why? Why do you think I did that? And look, and I heard, so we can continue this. I heard Derek yesterday, and I respect the hell out of D-Mace, and everybody knows that. But I want to address something he said about that whole situation.
All right, love it.
We'll do that coming up next. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by the Omni Nashville Hotel, where we are today at Bar Lines. I'll get to my comments on something Derek said yesterday, but this text from Dylan. What would your guys' reaction be at the end of the year if Amy gives us the old Adams middle finger and then walks off at the end of a press conference? I would clap.
I'd love it. I'd
If
love
she did
it.
that.
Because it would tell us that she's listening
Oh, yeah.
and doesn't care. Doesn't care that we know.
Yeah, no. That would be fantastic. That would be awesome if she did that. All right, so yesterday, and we were efforting to find the clip, but I was listening to DVD, and you guys know I love Derek, love D Mace, respect him, and he basically, and I'm paraphrasing, so I may not get this exactly right, but he was basically saying, you know, we've kind of made a big deal about when she fired John Robinson, you know, in the middle of the season or at the end of the season, they had a winning record. That he was basically saying that the locker room doesn't care. I mean, like, obviously there are going to be some guys that are like, oh man, John was cool or whatever, but like that's not going to affect them. That the head coach is the thing that they're the most connected to, and that would affect them. And while I hear him and I agree with that statement, then explain the result. Explain what happened after that. Because
Right.
I do think it had an effect. Now, whether, you know, and for Derek, like D-Mace is the type of player that it probably wouldn't have affected him because he's focused on his job because that's the, you know, that's the culture that he grew up in and he's going to go and do his thing. But I can't believe that there wasn't some sort of effect because of what the result ended up being.
The locker room that week was like, what the hell? I'm like,
Right.
you go talk to the players that week. They were like, we had no idea. And they were like at a loss for words. So, yeah, it affected them because they all talked about it.
Sure.
Like, we had no idea. And then great point. The end result.
Yeah.
The season was gone after that. So
That's
it
it.
affected all them.
That's it. And look, I know Tannehill got hurt. You know, you didn't have a backup. You went to Dobbs. You had all that stuff. So I recognize that those factors, you know, we're all there, certainly. But I have a hard time. And again, D-Mace, you know, obviously you're going to know better than I am. You've been in those locker rooms. But I just really have a hard time looking at the result thinking that there wasn't some sort of effect.
They talked about it in the week because he fired on that Tuesday. Locker rooms were open on Wednesday and Thursday. All the guys thought it's all they were asked about.
Yeah.
You go home to your wife, like, honey, they fired John Robinson.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, so this was the clip.
You fired a GM, and the misconception is, oh, by firing a GM, it disrupts the locker room. We don't care. I'm telling you that from a player standpoint. Listen, everybody, I did it for 15 years. I went through the changing of a head coach, everything, okay? We don't care. As players, we don't care. The only thing that would affect us is if, yes, you in the middle of the season, you change the head coach. If you fire the head coach in the middle of the season, that affects us in the locker room. Because now how the message is coming out is different now. So it affects us. When you fire the GM, we don't give a damn. We may hate it. We may say, man, that's messed up. But we got a job to do. That's what, who is convincing y'all that because they fired Robinson in the middle of the season, that's why the Titans started to be a bad team? No, people. This team was on the brink. Willie, we talked about this for so many years. Like, they were winning one-score games over and over and over, and they were eking out wins when they were hurt and everything else. And it was going to come a time
that
when it was gonna
basically sums it all up. So what do you think?
I think the result, like you talked about, how they finished out affected them. Nobody saw this coming. You yourself admit, and you were on with Derek and Willie the day John got fired.
Yeah, I was.
I mean, nobody believed it. So it's such a shock that it happened. It did affect these guys. They talked about it. The result was the season was over with. So it did.
Yeah.
I think it did.
Because here's how I would have taken it. That if I'm a player, because she when she did the sit down with Teresa Walker like a week later, she said that there were roster concerns. There was something about the roster, that she brought up. If I'm the guys in the locker room and I hear that, I go, wait a minute, I'm on the roster. Does that mean that like she doesn't like me?
Right.
I mean, like I'm not a good player?
Yes. Yes.
Like that's what I'm talking about. That it's like there then that, that mindset of, and I get doing that at the end of the year when the season's over, but you're doing that in the middle of the season and you got players going like, she's saying we suck.
Yeah. Buddy, listen, it's 2 years later. We're still talking about this.
Right.
Are we talking about Rustin Webster when he got let go? No. When Floyd let go? No. When Mike Reinfeldt got no, we're not talking about that.
Right.
But this 2 years later, we're still talking about one of the worst moments in franchise history because of what she did. So
it was a blunder, and I would tell her to her face it was a blunder.
Yep.
I mean, I look, now I'm not going to get into the whole Miss Amy thing, but it'd be like, Amy, I think you made a mistake.
What if she hired Robinson and Vrabel back? Did that not blow your mind? I mean, with Titans fans, you're like, all right, we got like,
that's
hey,
a great question.
Hey, we're back together. She says, I made a mistake. I need John here. I need Mike here. Here you go, guys. Here's the keys to the football team. Let's go win. I think majority of Titans fans would love that.
And here's the thing. If that did happen and you're John and you're Vrabel, and I think they might have to go have – those two would have to go have a little chat to clear some things up. But if you'd look her right in the eye and be like, okay, here's my price. Go back to Houston. Show up on game day. We'll talk to you then.
But I would love if that happened. They had that BS party for Rand.
Can I still do the uniforms? No.
Go away. The party for Rand they had, everybody welcoming in there, and we're told that was just a big sham. Like, hey, be in the lobby at 10 and clap for Rand. Like, what? We all know that was a giant joke. We all know that. Have this, but have like Mike and John come in like half lit and like a champagne bottle and everybody just going crazy, like coming out like WWE.
Yeah.
Like coming down the gangplank there and having fun. That would be an amazing moment in Nashville and pro sports history.
0857. Dude, there's no way firing a GM should have an effect on grown men in the NFL for 7 games. Y'all make way too many excuses for J-Rob.
Bro. These grown men have feelings too.
They do.
And we interview them, we talk to them. We've been in these locker rooms.
Everybody, go ahead.
And guys like Derek Mason are like 10% of the NFL. I'm telling you, man, at least in my perception. Guys who hate losing more than winning, that's a Derek Mason. Those guys hate losing.
Yep.
You ask Derek Mason about wins, he'd probably tell you 2 of them. You talk about some losses that he hated, I damn guarantee you Derek Mason knows about 30 of them that he hated. Those guys are built different. These guys now are different. They have feelings, and they'll tell you. Why do you think Brian Callahan went off on the soft question?
Yeah.
That's why.
And I loved it. I love that he went off about that. Like, and look, I love Derek's passion that he went off about this subject, but I'm just saying, I just think that the results show me something different. That's all I'm saying. Coming up next, we'll tell you what day it is and celebrity birthdays. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game here on this Thursday, live in the Omni Nashville Hotel at Bar Lines. Looking forward to Kitchen Notes will be reopened soon, so that'll be good.
Oh, it'd be so nice.
Be fun, but we've enjoyed hanging out at Bar Lines. Hey, come see us tomorrow. We're going to be down at Fort Ice in Bellevue for our Coats for Kids campaign with the Natural Predators and the Preds Foundation. You can come by, bring a new or gently used coat for a child. Donate that at the any of the Fort Ice centers in Antioch, Bellevue, or Clarksville. But again, we're going to be at Bellevue from starting with our show all the way through Stillman and Company. And we'll also take donations at the Preds game on Saturday, which is a 12:30 game against LA. For more information, visit thegamenashville.com/coats for our great charity that we're doing right now.
Real quick, Saturday, if they're bringing coat, where do they bring a coat to?
Bridgestone Arena.
But to where?
Bridgestone Arena.
There's like 4 entrances.
That's all I know. I'm reading the copy. Like, don't ask me. I think at the main entrance they'll have
cool.
something, but
It's a great thing. I mean, it's a great thing.
yeah. So you'll find a spot. We'll have more information.
All
on
right,
that.
man.
But with that, let's get to what day is it at celebrity birthdays. Reminds me of that Jeff Foxworthy skit. Have you seen that one where
His wife?
he reads the text? He's like, "Hey, Jeff was in a car wreck. Pray for him or something like that." Oh no, was he hurt? I don't know. I just got a text that said Jeff was in a car. Were Becky and the kids with him? I don't know. I just got a text that said Jeff was in a car. Well, what do you know? I don't know. I just got a text. I'm just reading what I got. Go ahead, Dr. Crane.
All righty, gentlemen. First on the list, we have Holly Day. So, grab some holly, cut it off.
Holly? Okay.
Holly, yep. Let's see. Look for an Evergreen Day. So,
Every day, baby.
yep. National Emo Day is next. National Hard Candy Day. So, if you like some hard candy, go enjoy it.
You
National Oatmeal Muffin Day. I'm an
Ooh,
oatmeal
ooh.
cookie guy, but oatmeal muffin's pretty good.
Oatmeal's great for you.
Let's see. National Regifting Day. I didn't know that was today.
Every single year.
You do that, Joe?
Hell yeah, I do that.
Okay. Good to know.
Yep.
Well, that's all we got. So on to celebrity
That's it?
birthdays. Yep. Short list.
Good
today.
job. Good
By the way,
job.
I apologize. I mean, my coughing, I sound like Val Kilmer in Tombstone. I apologize. I'll try
Sound
to
like Christian Bale in The Dark Knight.
Right. All
Where
right, time
is he?
for celebrity birthdays. Our first birthday, he played, I wrote it down, Bobby Brady, Mike Lookinland on the Brady Bunch. How old is Bobby Brady?
68.
70.
64.
Hmm.
Actress Jennifer Beals. She was in Flashdance. How old is Jennifer Beals?
She was also mentioned in Adam Sandler's The Hanukkah Song.
That's right.
58.
62.
61. Dr. Crane's on the board, 1-0. Keep on going down here. Who is this? My computer's slow. Don't know her. How is she famous? Alyssa Milano. How old is Alyssa Milano? What was she on? Who's the boss?
Yeah, and was
Yeah.
it Charmed?
Charm, yeah.
Yeah.
Samantha, Mona.
48.
53.
52. Dr. Crane hitting the outside corners, up 2-0 on this. Don't know who that is. Actor Jake Gyllenhaal started the 2024 remake of Roadhouse.
46.
44.
44 exactly. Dr. Crane roll up 4-0. Actor Tim Reed, Venus Flytrap from WKRP in Cincinnati. Tim Reed.
69.
73.
80. Country singer Janie Fricke.
Who?
Janie Fricke.
73.
How dare you? Who?
70.
Janie Fricke. 77. The older brother, Robert McNaughton in E.T. There were 3 of them. They're him, Henry Thomas, and Drew Barrymore. He was the older brother.
64.
66.
58. Magician Chris Angel.
52.
56.
57. Dr. Crane's up 5-0. A guy that Chase emulates a lot of times, model Tyson Beckford. How old is Tyson Beckford?
48.
46.
54. Model Paulina Gretzky.
The great one's daughter.
Yep.
34.
She's married to Dustin Johnson, right?
Correct.
Yep.
38.
Oh, 36. That's a push. All right, here we go with sports. Kevin McHale. The great Kevin McHale.
66.
67.
67 exactly. Nick's up 7-0. The other great NBA center, Arvydas Sabonis. For those who played fantasy basketball back in the 90s, he was a must-have on your team. Arvydas Sabonis.
63.
65.
64, that's a push. The best NFL guard of all time, well, besides John Hanna, Randall McDaniel, Hall of Famer, played for the Vikings.
67.
62.
60. You're up 8-0, Nick, with
Jeez.
2 to go. Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp, who's on the coaching staff at Colorado. How old is Warren Sapp?
51.
54.
52. Chaser on the board there.
Finally.
8-1. Last birthday, Chase, you get it. Jake Plummer. How old is Jake Plummer?
48.
41.
Oh, he's 50. But, Nick, you win 8-2. Nick, if you'd have gotten that one, you'd had the best two-day back-to-back we've ever had. You'd had 19 points, but you win 8-2. Well done.
I want to see your just stat sheet. That's incredible.
Well, I mean, look, I have the mind of somebody that's crazy, so it works out fine.
Yeah, it does. It does. That is going to do it for us.
As we always leave our show to our guys out there, know that we love you. If you're struggling, you need to talk to somebody, please, on your cell phone. You can call or text 988. Please do that. If you do that, you're not a lesser man. You're a strong, brave, awesome man. If you need to reach out to us, we're always here for you. Please talk to us. Please, before you do anything, please know that we love you. More importantly, God loves you. And that if something happened to you, you would be tremendously missed. You are here for a reason. Your journey is beautiful. And as we say, God loves you.
Amen to that. Peace, love, rock and roll. DVD coming up next. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.